In the crowded, competitive world of 1980s independent horror, very few performers managed to completely command the screen like Linnea Quigley. She didn't work just inside the decade's explosive video store boom, she became its definitive muse, infusing every single project she touched with an undeniable charisma, boundless physical energy, and a brilliant sense of humor. Whether she was playing a fierce final girl, a dangerous punk rock rebel, or a memorable victim, she elevated low-budget productions into instant cult classics through the sheer force of her on-screen presence. Tonight, we're celebrating the ultimate queen of the video rental era by looking at 10 essential titles featuring the legendary Linnea Quigley. These are the films that defined the late-night B-movie landscape, where high-concept practical gore and campy humor ruled the bottom shelves. From elite sorority house slasher parodies to neon-soaked demon possessions inside abandoned funeral homes, these stories represent the absolute peak of fun independent horror.
The Return of the Living Dead, 1985. Two warehouse workers accidentally release toxic gas from a military canister, resurrecting a cadaver, and unleashing a zombie outbreak on the outskirts of Louisville. These aren't slow shamblers. They're fast, intelligent, nearly indestructible, and crave human brains. As the infection spreads through a nearby cemetery during a punk party, the military covers up their role, while the zombies adapt, communicate, and hunt with terrifying efficiency. Dan O'Bannon wrote and directed a horror comedy masterpiece, blending genuine scares with pitch-black humor. Clu Gulager and James Karen play the warehouse workers, whose mistake sets everything in motion, while Linnea Quigley became a scream queen icon. The punk aesthetic, leather, mohawks, and nihilistic attitude gives the film its distinctive visual identity and fits perfectly with the apocalyptic chaos. Practical effects by William Munns and team elevate the film, from the fluid skeletal tarman to melting toxic rain-infected zombies, while makeup effects emphasize decay and grotesque skeletal features. The Return of the Living Dead left a lasting mark on zombie cinema, popularizing brains as zombie speech, establishing running zombies, and proving horror comedy could be both funny and frightening, all set to a punk soundtrack that became iconic. Nightmare Sisters, 1988. An independent low-budget comedy horror feature directed and produced by David DeCoteau, this late 1980s production stands as a staple of the direct-to-home video exploitation boom. Shot in just 4 days to maximize a restricted budget, the film deliberately leans into an ultra-saturated neon-tinted bedroom and house party aesthetic that defines late 80s underground cinema. The cinematography features high-contrast lighting utilizing intense pinks, purples, and deep blues, shifting away from standard bleak horror palettes to establish a fast-paced, visually loud atmosphere where practical optical effects and physical comedy take precedence. The plot centers on 3 socially awkward college sorority sisters named Mickey, Melody, and Marcy, who find themselves completely excluded from the campus social scene. Desperate for male attention, they invite a pair of nerdy fraternity outcasts and an eccentric, self-proclaimed mystic named Omar over to their house for an impromptu seance to liven up a weekend evening. The situation goes completely off the rails when the group accidentally summons a chaotic, ancient succubus entity that instantly possesses the 3 young women. The narrative shifts into a manic survival scenario as the newly transformed predatory sisters undergo a radical physical makeover, using their supernatural allure to trap, terrorize, and systematically harvest the souls of the unsuspecting men trapped inside the house. The film relies on a high-profile trio of B-movie icons, bringing together Linnea Quigley, Brinka Stevens, and Michelle Bauer as the central sisters, supported by a cast of familiar character actors including Dookie Flyswatter as the Mystic. It remains a distinct historical artifact of the late 1980s home rental landscape. Night of the Demons, 1988. On Halloween night, a group of teens gathers at Hull House, an abandoned funeral parlor with a sinister past. What begins as a rowdy party quickly descends into hell when a seance unleashes a demonic force. One by one, the guests are possessed, turning on each other in a night of blood, gore, and twisted revelry. Directed by Kevin Tenney, Night of the Demons is a perfect slice of late 80s horror excess. Kathy Podewell stars as Judy, the final girl trying to survive, while Amelia Kincaid steals the show as Angela, whose transformation into a snarling, dancing demon became instantly iconic. Linnea Quigley also leaves her mark with one of the most outrageous and memorable set pieces in VHS-era horror. The film thrives on Halloween atmosphere, flickering jack-o'-lanterns, fog-draped cemeteries, and costumes that turn deadly. Practical effects provide gory kills and grotesque demonic makeups, creating a blend of camp and terror that feels like a carnival ride gone wrong. Though it wasn't a theatrical hit, Night of the Demons became a home video staple, passed around for its outrageous set pieces and unapologetic energy. Today, it stands as one of the ultimate Halloween horror films, wild, gory, and dripping with seasonal spirit. Sorority babes in the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama, 1988. A bunch of sorority pledges and a few tagging-along nerds break into a bowling alley for a hazing prank, only to accidentally release an impish, smart-mouthed demon from a trophy. It is a quintessential slice of the babes, blades, and bowling subgenre, leaning heavily into a neon-lit tongue-in-cheek aesthetic. Director David DeCoteau prioritizes practical creature effects and campy, high-energy performances over any pretense of traditional horror structure, perfectly capturing the spirit of the late 80s direct-to-video market. The bowling alley itself, cramped, colorful, and glowing with neon, becomes the film's primary playground. By utilizing the lanes and pins as hazards, the production makes the most of its limited budget while maintaining a vibrant, slightly deranged atmosphere. Linnea Quigley anchors the cast with her veteran Scream Queen charisma, while the creature, a cynical puppet-based entity, acts as a mischievous commentator on the stupidity of the human characters, providing a layer of dark comedy that sets this apart from the era's more serious slashers. Viewers looking for prestige cinema will be disappointed, but for those who curate their collections based on discovery and that specific VHS era grit, this is a required watch. It functions as a fast-paced, unpretentious artifact of a time when horror prioritized fun and gross-out gags above all else. At its core, it is a reminder that sometimes the most memorable genre entries are the ones that are entirely comfortable being exactly what the title promises. Vice Academy, 1989. Los Angeles is burning with cheap neon, illegal street operations, and a criminal underbelly that standard police forces cannot touch. Enter the Vice Academy. This independent action comedy from director Rick Sloan strips away the gloss of late 80s television cop shows to deliver a gritty, fast-paced, and cartoonish view of urban law enforcement. The visual style relies on ultra-flat, bright daytime lighting, harsh sun-drenched concrete streets, and loud primary-colored wardrobe choices that pop straight out of a low-budget independent production. There are no moody shadows here. The camera framing is strictly functional, capturing physical slapstick comedy, explosive prop gags, and immediate chaotic confrontations. The story drops viewers straight into a last-chance training program, where a group of rebellious, misbehaving young women are forced into an undercover female police division. Under the aggressive commands of their militaristic instructor, these new recruits must learn the basics of hand-to-hand combat, firearm handling, and unconventional street operations. The plot kicks into high gear when the rookie cadets are deployed directly onto the pavement to disrupt an extensive, highly eccentric criminal ring run by a ruthless female crime boss. To survive the streets, these recruits must balance their internal rivalries and constant blunders before executing a final sting operation. Linnea Quigley stars as the Wild Dee Dee alongside adult film crossover star Ginger Lynn Allen as Holly, creating an energetic on-screen comedic duo that drives the entire narrative. Supported by Karen Russell, the cast navigates a series of clumsy undercover stings, explosive warehouse altercations, and physical prop comedy. It stands as a pure time capsule of the late 1980s straight-to-video exploitation boom, built specifically for the local rental shelves where high-voltage setups and raw physical performance reigned supreme. Creepozoids, 1987. In the ruins of a post-apocalyptic 1998, a group of deserters takes refuge in an abandoned research facility, hoping to escape acid rain and radiation. But what they find inside is far worse. A monstrous creature born of genetic experiments gone wrong, stalking them through the darkened hallways and feeding on anyone unlucky enough to cross its path. Directed by David DeCoteau, Creepozoids is a low-budget sci-fi horror that wears its alien influence proudly while adding its own grim, late-night flavor. The film stars Scream Queen Linnea Quigley, who brings energy and grit to the role of one of the survivors. The monster may not have had a blockbuster budget behind it, but the filmmakers lean into atmosphere, dim corridors, dripping pipes, and claustrophobic rooms that make every encounter tense. The practical effects, though rubbery at times, deliver plenty of slime, gore, and even a grotesque mutant baby that gives the film its infamous reputation. What makes Creepozoids stand out is its scrappy determination. Running just over 70 minutes, it wastes no time, packing in creature attacks, gore, and apocalyptic dread without unnecessary filler. It's the kind of movie that thrived on VHS rentals, delivering exactly what its lurid cover promised. Though overlooked on release, Creepozoids carved out cult status as a quick, grimy slice of 80s sci-fi horror. It may not reinvent the genre, but it delivers the monsters, the atmosphere, and the late-night energy that kept fans rewinding for more. Murder Weapon, 1989. Directed by David DeCoteau under the female pseudonym Ellen Cabot, this rapid turnaround independent slasher strips away the sprawling set pieces of major studio horror to deliver a highly concentrated domestic exercise in late 80s suspense. The raw setup zeroes in on Dawn and Lorene, two young women who have just been discharged from a psychiatric sanitarium following a severe emotional trauma rooted in childhood betrayals. Attempting to reintegrate into a normal social routine, they schedule a poolside reunion party at a secluded estate, inviting a small group of their former boyfriends for a weekend gathering. The atmosphere turns fatal when a mysterious, unidentifiable killer begins systematically breaching the perimeter of the property. Linnea Quigley anchors the screen as Dawn, alongside Karen Russell as Lorene. A tight whodunit scenario emerges as the remaining survivors try to determine if an outsider has invaded the grounds or if one of the hosts has suffered a psychological break. It remains a definitive artifact of the straight-to-tape midnight horror market. Savage Streets, 1984. Savage Streets, directed by Danny Steinman, is a high-energy 1980s exploitation thriller that combines revenge, action, and gritty urban drama. The story follows Brenda, played by Linda Blair, a tough high school student whose life is thrown into chaos when a gang called The Scars commits a horrific crime against her disabled sister and her best friend. Devastated and enraged, Brenda decides to take justice into her own hands. Her quest for vengeance drives the story, as she confronts the violent underworld of Los Angeles with courage, cunning, and relentless determination. From the very beginning, Savage Streets sets a dangerous tone. The streets are treacherous, and Brenda's world is unforgiving. She is a strong and fearless lead who refuses to let her loved ones suffer without consequences. One of the film's most memorable moments comes when she wields a crossbow in a tense and violent showdown, a scene that has become iconic within the genre. The performances are larger than life, in keeping with 1980s exploitation style. Linda Blair delivers a fierce and commanding performance, and Linnea Quigley brings emotional stakes as Brenda's sister. The soundtrack pulses with 80s rock, enhancing the sense of energy and tension throughout the film. Savage Streets does not shy away from its sleazy and shocking elements. Nudity, violence, and over-the-top action all combine to create a memorable cult classic. Beyond the chaos, the film is a story about justice, loyalty, and standing up for the people you care about. For fans of 80s revenge thrillers with a strong female lead, Savage Streets is a wild, unforgettable ride. Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers, 1988. A private detective searching for a missing young woman uncovers an underground cult that treats chainsaw killings as part of an elaborate, ritualized belief system. The group follows a bizarre, half-understood version of ancient mythology, convinced their violence serves a higher purpose. As the detective digs deeper, he's pulled into an increasingly absurd world, where spectacle and chaos replace any sense of logic. Directed by Fred Olen Ray, the film is unapologetic low-budget exploitation that knows exactly what it's doing. Gunnar Hansen, famously associated with Leatherface, plays the cult leader with deliberate self-awareness, leaning into parody rather than menace. Linnea Quigley headlines the cult members, fully committing to the film's exaggerated tone. The cast delivers knowingly ridiculous dialogue with just enough sincerity to keep the joke functioning. The violence is intentionally over-the-top and cartoonish. Chainsaw attacks are staged for shock comedy rather than suspense, with exaggerated reactions and effects pushing everything into farce. The set pieces favor outrageous spectacle over tension, turning what could be disturbing material into broad, chaotic humor. Cheap sets and rough edges aren't hidden. They're part of the appeal. Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers is trash cinema by design. It isn't interested in subtlety, scares, or commentary. Its goal is excess, absurdity, and relentless escalation. For viewers who appreciate knowingly ridiculous exploitation and camp taken to extremes, it delivers exactly what its reputation promises: loud, messy, and completely self-aware. Witchtrap, 1989. Written and directed by independent genre veteran Kevin S. Tenney, this late 1980s supernatural thriller serves as a spiritual companion piece to his earlier hits like Witchboard. Filmed on location at an estate in Southern California, the production embraces an atmospheric, claustrophobic visual design that relies heavily on a large, maze-like mansion setting. The cinematography utilizes long, slow tracking shots through wood-paneled corridors, bathing the indoor environments in deep, pitch-black shadows to intensify the isolation of the characters. The plot focuses on a specialized team of professional paranormal researchers hired by an anxious property owner to investigate Lauderhouse, a massive, long-abandoned mansion. The estate is plagued by a history of violence and is currently haunted by the malevolent, vengeful spirit of Avery Lauder, an eccentric magician and devious satanic cult leader who died on the premises. Equipped with electromagnetic sensors, video recording arrays, and personal firearms, the team attempts to perform a high-tech exorcism to cleanse the property for commercial use. The operation turns into a desperate battle for survival when the ghost begins manipulating physical reality, turning their own technology against them and using telekinetic violence to eliminate the team one by one. James W. Quinn anchors the main cast as the deadpan, highly skeptical security guard Tony Vincent, alongside notable genre mainstays Linnea Quigley as a media medium and Judy Tatum as the team leader. The film relies heavily on elaborate practical special effects and sudden prosthetic transformations to deliver its sequence of supernatural set pieces. It stands as a prototypical example of the independent video era haunted house subgenre. Linnea Quigley's Horror Workout, 1990. Linnea Quigley steps off the traditional movie set and onto a brightly colored exercise mat for this unique, campy 1990 direct-to-video hybrid. Capitalizing on the twin video rental crazes of the era, celebrity fitness tapes, and independent horror features, this production blends a high-energy aerobic routine with gory, special effects-laden narrative interruptions. The cinematography favors wide, instructional angles for the fitness movements, interspersed with sudden close-up tracking shots, rapid zooms, and campy perspective framing. The bizarre framing narrative begins with Linnea hosting an enthusiastic backyard poolside workout session. The synchronized jumping jacks and stretching routines are abruptly derailed as a series of classic horror movie tropes invade the property. A gaggle of flesh-eating zombies rises from the nearby soil to infiltrate the lawn. A masked psychopath stalks the perimeter with deadly intent, and a sleepover gathering turns into a monstrous, blood-splattered nightmare. Instead of fleeing, the host and her exercise crew integrate these terrifying threats into their physical regimen. Directed by Kenneth J. Hall, the production leans into its specific late-night video market origins. It stands as a definitive, highly specific historical artifact of the low-budget, straight-to-tape video boom.
Thanks for watching. If you have your own memories of these films or a hidden gem we missed, let us know in the comments below. We're building this collection together, one film at a time. And remember, always be kind and rewind, because every movie is somebody's favorite.